I looked at my son Lyric, sorry, and he's, I don't know why. He says, yeah, just give me a minute.
Of course, man. Take your time, Hey, what's going on, everybody? Joining us today on Recovery Works is an absolutely amazing client. This guy has been through some of the most interesting stuff and one of the most interesting stories that I have seen, but he is truly one of the highest level people I know, and that's not even including clients. I mean, people in general. His empathy, his understanding, his patience, something really inspires me. So I'd love to welcome with us Gunther.
What's up, John?
My man, how you doing?
I am great, man.
Good.
I am great. I am great.
So Gunther, why don't you just, tell us, man, you were just about to share how this isn't your first stint in recovery, but so tell us, your journey through recovery, and could you start with, what it was like being in the drug world?
Well, it started back when I was 13.
13.
Smoking weed in a cemetery, and it kind of stemmed from that and the crowd that I chose to hang around with, and I still talk to those people here and there, but not as much. It just it went from one thing to the next. Drinking, smoking, snorting pills, putting something up my nose, and I had that thing about putting something up my nose. So 2005, I was sentenced to West Central. So I spent a month in Logan County, and then shortly after that, I was put in West Central. And that's back when it was TC, and TC stands for Therapeutic Community.
Okay.
And it was much, much different from what it is now. Back then we had 2 marathons, and that's where you lost all privileges, and you had to sit in chairs for the rest of the day. You would wake up at certain times, like 5 o'clock in the morning. You would have to exercise, and you would exercise to Eye of the Tiger every single day for 180 days straight.
Wow.
And you would have to clean urinals with socks. You'd wear toilet seats around your neck. And if you screwed up, they would say it. They would intervene. They would call you out in front of everybody through all the resident monitors, everything. So around the time I was about ready to graduate, see, you do 180 days there, 6 months. And I was about ready to graduate early, and I was working at Frankie's part-time through West Central. And I took a dip off somebody at Frankie's Wood Products. Well, my big brother told on me. I sat in segregation for 3 days, lost all my privileges, wasn't going to graduate early, and I was a 180. That was our group, by the way. And I finally came clean. I was like, yeah, I took the dip, I took the nicotine and stuff like that. And so we went through all the phases. There was 4 phases. I graduated 2006 of March, and I was 23 at that time.
Wow.
And that's when I learned that I had a daughter, which is my oldest daughter now, McKinley. She's 14. She just turned 14 on the 26th of April. And I stayed clean for a good 2.5, maybe 3 years, maybe even 4. I don't know. It's clouded sometimes. But, I started noticing, I started hanging around old friends and stuff. And not that point the finger at them or saying it's their fault, because everybody has a conscience. But I just slowly, gradually started going right back to it.
Of course.
Drinking, smoking, snorting pills and everything. And then one thing led to another. And, I didn't get in trouble. I never got caught or anything like that. But I was trying to always be secretive.
Sure.
But in the back, on my conscience, if you're going to visit somebody like my parents, like I said earlier, you can't even say the word fart around them. You just have that. It plays with you, and it messes with you. And you're like, what am I doing to myself? But then the next thing you know, you're sitting there smoking a crack pipe or something.
Of course.
Snorting coke. So I've done a lot of drugs, in 37 years.
Yeah.
But what I tell you what makes it different this time is, back in 2016, we were moving and we got kicked out of our place. And I looked at my son Lyric, sorry, And he's, I don't know why. He says, yeah, just give me a minute.
Yeah, of course, man. Take your time, dude. Gunther, like I said, brother, you bring an element that I've never seen to life. Not even step outside of this facility, step outside of the fact that we're doing work here.
Right.
You're someone I've met who, dude, you inspire. That's rare. That's so rare, man. I look for that, dude.
And the lyric looks at me and he says, thanks. He says, Dad, where are we going? And I said, well, we gotta go to Springfield. And this wasn't the best environment by any means.
It's all right, brother.
And
You're gonna make me cry, man.
I said,
Yeah, my dude.
I don't
We'll all
know why.
cry. We'll all cry.
I know. I said, I'm sorry for letting you down. And that's when it all changed. That's when I just turned it around. I did. I turned it around. My wife and I both.
That's incredible, man. Wow.
Yeah.
So what was it in that moment? Was it your son? Was it why was it that moment where you were like, you know what, something's awakening me?
I think it was the sheer disappointment in his eyes. You know? I couldn't do it anymore.
Of course.
I was kind of like this, you know, more or less. I was mentally, physically drained.
Of course.
You know, going from job to job, not doing anything, not being responsible, and that's what awakened what I have today, what we have today.
100%.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like the drugs pushed you to that point, or what was it like? Thinking, because for that moment to happen, do you think that the drugs was numbing that, because that person
Yeah.
was there? So
Yeah, it was blocking everything. It was clouding my judgment, my thinking, everything about decision making, anything that you can. It's just not a road you want to go down.
Of course.
I don't. And if you're doing it, get out, seek help. You know.
You know, there's this old thought of people who are addicted to drugs are bad people, and clearly, that's not the case. And now we know that. What do you have to say to people who are addicted to drugs who think they're bad people?
You're not bad people. You know, if you really dig deep down, find what's going on in your life and grab it by the balls. If you have to, grab it by whatever. Just find help, and don't wait till it's too late, until you're either locked up or 6 feet under, because it's not the road to go to. It's not.
Yeah.
We are so much happier. When I say we, I say my wife and I, because she comes here too. She introduced me to this place. And, you know, for the longest time, even way before I met you, I was like, oh, this is just going to be another one of those places. And it turned out not to be, because, you know, I've said it to her. I've said it to a lot of people. I've said it to you. You know, this place is different. You guys genuinely care. And there's people out there that do care and that have been in our shoes. And if you need to talk about it, talk about it, because that's what helps.
100%, man. And we all grow together.
Oh,
That's the
definitely.
most important, the
Definitely.
amazing part. I talk about this all the time is, you know, as much therapy as someone might hear from me speaking, hearing a story like that, man, I mean, that touches me. That leaves an impression on me that I would never have gotten.
Right.
And it helps me with my own stuff. And that's the coolest thing about this, is like we all kind of get to share what we're going through, the things that we suffer from, the things that we need help with.
Yeah.
And we bond through it.
Yeah.
And it's
Kind of like earlier.
yeah, 100%. We're sitting in there praying together, and I'm like, where else would this happen? It's rare.
That happened for a reason too.
I could not agree more, man. Could not agree
Yeah.
more. And I very much appreciate you facilitate a lot of that, man. There's a calmness about you, Gunther. There's I don't know what it is, but there's something about your personality, your character, these qualities that, I don't know, man. It inspires me. It makes me, want to grow into those kinds of things that you have.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah. So, dude, how is your son now?
He's better. He's a lot better.
Good.
He's a lot better. And just the little things that we're able to do for him that we didn't do back then, because we was always worried about addiction. We was always worried about that next fix. So when can I get my next perk 30?
Of course.
Of course. And if you didn't have your perk 30, well, then of course you went through the symptoms. Oh, my hands hurt, my legs hurt, or I don't feel like getting out of bed. You stew around with the negative things versus, what we are now. And that, you couldn't pay us all the money in the world to go back to that lifestyle. And when you see people that are close to you doing it, and you know damn well that they're doing stuff, it rips you apart.
Of course.
And you want to say something. And if you feel like if you don't say something, is it going to be too late? You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I could not agree more.
And so you just gotta pull the trigger on it, and you gotta say, hey, look, you're not fooling me.
Right.
I've been there.
Right.
I've been there.
100%.
So
was there a point in your life when you were in that functioning state where you were using drugs, but you were still ahead of it? It wasn't like completely draining you, exhausting you, taking all your money. Was there a point where the drug use was just happy-go-lucky fun?
Maybe when I was a teenager.
Maybe very young.
But I think it was more or less to cope with that, like I mentioned to you earlier, cope with the core of my problem, pushing people away.
Yeah.
I pushed my wife away, I pushed my kids away, my parents away. And I didn't think anything of it. And I was in that right mindset I wasn't in the right mindset. I was in the mindset of like, oh, okay, when can I get high again?
Yeah, sure.
When can I put this up my nose again? When can I get this? I'm not worried about this next job at NEX or somewhere else.
Yeah.
I didn't think like that.
100%.
But deep down, I think that was a coping thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Where did that come, like that coping, where do you feel like that was in your past? Like, did someone treat you that way?
I think a lot of it stemmed from my real dad. Me reaching out those 3 times to him. Growing up, once when I was 5, I was feeding bread to the ducks in Urbana at the pond with my mom. And my mom mostly talked to him. So I didn't really talk to him. I was 5 years old, and I didn't think any of it. And then I seen a news ad when I was 18, and it was his parents who were having a reunion. And so I surprised him. I took 2 of my best friends with me, Seth and Big Bird. I took them with me, and I was like, hey, this is what's going on. I want to see if my dad will establish a relationship.
Yeah.
He wasn't there at the time, and I introduced myself to his 4th wife, and she didn't know a thing about me. She never even heard my name. She starts talking, and we got along great, and for that short amount of time. And he comes walking in the door. I remember it like it happened yesterday. He walks in the door. I'm standing right there with Seth and Big Bird. I said, hey, Dad. And he just, mind you, 5, 18. So he probably didn't recognize. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. And he was about ready to leave. And his wife told him and talked him into staying there. So we went off to the little side hallway, kind of like this. I told him everything, let it all out. And he goes, okay. He's like, you still living with your mom? I said, yeah. He goes, okay, I'll call you. Never called. So I was with another friend years later. He just got a brand new Firebird, and we was in Urbana, was pulled up there at the gas station. He pulls up in a truck. I didn't know it was him getting out of the truck.
Sure.
I was like, hey, Dad, you like my buddy's new car? He goes, yeah, pays for his gas, leaves. And that's the last time we spoke. So I think a lot of that stems from me using drugs and just the core of that problem, pushing those people away.
Of course.
That blocks a lot of it.
100%. And it's almost like the pain of the past. Man, you'd do anything to take that away.
Yeah.
So something as comforting as drugs is easy to just kind of, even feels good in the moment.
Right.
It's treating a deeper core problem like you shared. And that's very insightful, man, of you to notice. And that's why when I say you're a very high functioning, understanding individual, it's hard to make that distinction, right? It's so easy to be like, well, the drugs, they've just got me.
Yeah.
To look at it and say, you know what, there's a core problem that these drugs are fueling. That's where the true magic of, recovery and this whole process lies.
Yeah.
So, man, I've seen you do it with other clients, the connection you have. Why do you think that this place is different in that fact from your other place? Like, obviously we don't put toilet seats around heads and do all that, but what makes us different?
I think it's the staff. I think that you guys have a lot of empathy, and you're not here to write off a Suboxone prescription. You want to hear, and like you said, you're insightful. You guys are on level with us. You're like just earlier. When you have people that actually genuinely care and that want to listen to it and help you out, that matters. Instead of just writing, "Oh, here you go, see you later." That's not going to mean anything to nobody.
Of course.
Not in the right mind, even if you were sober.
Yeah.
That's not gonna help them. If I was to go to a doctor, a regular doctor, or however you want to say it, if I was to go to a doctor tomorrow and say, "Hey, I've got a problem with my knee," okay, I'll write you out a prescription. That's all it's going to be. Well, that's going to turn into addiction, of course.
Of course.
It may not.
Right.
Everybody's different. But with here, there's been many opportunities to go somewhere else in Dublin, go to my hometown and go there. I could go 5 minutes away instead of driving 45 minutes. But there's just something, I don't know, so I can't really answer that question honest.
Of course.
But there's something here about, beyond the staff, about you guys that it brings it out, and we're able to connect.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we greatly appreciate that, man. But once again, dude, you're the pilot in this whole project, right? Without you, there's nothing. And for you to be this open, this disclosing, and I hope you realize that's a strength in you and not us. We might have helped in some way, shape, or form, but brother, that's you. So around Suboxone, why don't you tell us about some Suboxone? There's a lot of medication-assisted treatment stigma. People, sometimes I've seen clinicians even that hear that word and it's like, "Oh, you just said the dirtiest word you could have possibly said."
Yeah.
And now that is getting better as we're getting older, new generations are coming forward. But that stigma needs to be crushed in my eyes. I think that's the worst thing, and I'd love your opinion on that.
Yeah, well, I shared that with you last year too. One of them experiences, I'll share it again. I don't know where it stemmed from. I don't know where all that came from. You're just trading this drug for another drug, or it's synthetic heroin or something like that. Or if you put it up your nose, you're doing the same thing. No, you're not. You're not. I'll say it like this, how I said it earlier. I first tried Suboxone by snorting it back in 2009 with my guitars in my old band. And, I was like, "Oh, this ain't too bad. This ain't too bad." And eventually you try other things and you're not getting anywhere. You're just round in a circle.
Yeah.
And, when you do it right and you put it underneath your tongue like you're supposed to, I don't know how to express it. It's a feeling you can't really express, I guess. It just...
Yeah. If you could, what does it take away? What mindset-wise, how does it feel?
For me, honestly, it's like a responsible thing. It's like I know I have to take my 2 every day at a certain time. First thing when I wake up after I brush my teeth, and right before I go into work. And it helps. Now, I notice years ago when I would not have it or not take it, you do go through those pain of like not having it, but you don't notice it for like days on end, I guess.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting, man. It's some people call it miracle medication. Other people, snob their noses at it. So it's so interesting. I've never seen a medication get so many different angles, and it breaks my heart, man, to know that there are people using right now that are old, 50, 60, 70-year-olds who are saying, "I'm tired of this. I want it to be over, please." And if more people were like, "Oh my, if you got an addiction, hey, come on in. Let's get you on Suboxone. Let's get you on one of these medications, get you counseled." And if our world was like that, there's a statistic, only 10% of people with a drug addiction get help for it. And I blame that for stigma, because people are like, if I go there and say that I've got this disease, everybody's going to look at me like, oh, you're scum.
Right.
And I hate it, man. I hate it. Coming from my family's got a huge problem with addiction. And if my aunts, my uncles would have gotten into the help that they needed, they'd be here today.
Yeah.
But instead, they continued that drug use, which just made our whole family really crumble and kind of pick up the pieces after they'd passed away.
Oh, man.
So I completely understand, man, your side of it, and I do, man. Any other points that you'd want to throw in with that medication, or any kind of the combination of the medication with the counseling? I like how you said that it's a responsibility, in the fact that when you take that,
it is.
Good.
It is. It is, because a family member of mine not too long ago had mentioned that she used to be on Suboxone, and she did it for quite a while, and then she just stopped altogether. And everybody has their reasons why they want to stop, and that's okay.
Sure.
That's fine.
Sure.
But now she's doing gabapentin, and I'm like, wait a minute. Isn't gabapentin something kind of bad? I mean, maybe it is, maybe it is. I don't know.
Of course.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a neuroscientist or anything of that matter. But what I do know is from my experience and doing it correctly and doing it the right way. And that's what it takes. It's a lot of willpower.
100%.
It is a lot of willpower.
Where do you find your willpower from? What
God, my children, my wife.
Your children, your wife. How is your
My family.
relationship with your wife and your kids now versus how it was in the past?
Oh, 110-fold over.
Really?
It really is. I mean, just being able to wake up and not have to worry about that stuff anymore. Not have to worry about where I'm going to get my next fix.
Oh, man.
And being honest and being able to look people in their eyes and tell them, like, look, man, if you need something, I've got you. And not the other way of, oh, do you need something?
Of course.
You see them getting
at? Yeah, 100%.
And people know when you're on something and you're not.
Of course.
You can tell the difference.
100%.
Without even having to say a word. And that brings a lot of joy. I know personally for myself, I know it brings a lot of joy to my wife as well.
Yeah.
And the hard work that you put in for it. Yeah, the days might be long, the hours might be long for the rest of the week, but being sober, and not only just being sober, just living life is rewarding in itself. It really is. And being able to see your kids happy. Yeah. Because like I said, that really struck a heartstring. When Lyric looked at me and was like, Dad, it's okay. Where are we going to go?
Wow.
That really struck a nerve.
Wow.
And it still does to this day when I bring it up. I mean, look, it happened. But that's something I'm always willing to share with anybody that needs to hear it.
Yeah. Are you proud of yourself?
No, tremendously. And it's a work in progress. I still get angry. I still become that a-hole or something like that, but not as often.
Of course.
That person of me is gone because I put my faith in God. There was a time where I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I even here? Contemplating suicidal thoughts and things like that. And that's as far as it ever got. But, I remember breaking down inside of a church, and it's like, look, I've had enough. 35 years of my life, 34 years of my life, I tried to do everything on my own. How about I give it over to him, because he's been knocking out the door. God's been knocking at the door. And not just because it's a safety blanket, or it's okay to talk to him, or however people say it.
Yeah.
When you witness God and the Holy Spirit, you really witness him.
Could not agree more.
And I'm telling you, it's something powerful.
Definitely. What are you excited for, man, in the future? Because, dude, I'm excited for you. Seeing once again, I think I would love for you to become a counselor, man. There's something about you, man, that you can inspire. I know this video alone, man, when people are afraid, when people do worry about, hey, is that facility going to be okay? And then they see someone like you who's gone through a stint where they've been good, and then they've had a crash and burn, and then they go through another stint where something awakened, something was different this time, something that wasn't there before. Now that path is there.
come with me. Give me a call. I mean, that's just one route I would be willing to take with somebody, even a total stranger. Come with.
Yeah.
Let it all out.
Of course.
Put your feelings out there.
100%.
There's just so much. There's a lot.
So what goals do you have right now with things? Tell us about your life, man. I know you're working at Honda.
Well, I
This
work for
man's a
MEI.
fantastic singer, by the way. He's absolutely incredible.
I work for MEI, Midwest Express. I'm part of the support group, which is called ICG, Inventory Control. Doing that third shift. I've been there for almost 2 years in November.
Wow.
So I left NEX and I was there off and on. And that was part of the problem too. Using drugs, you don't really care about your job. So
Sure.
I was always off and on. I would be there for a year or two and then right back to it. Same old routine.
Yeah.
And, that was probably one of the best decisions I'd made at the time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happier. But as far as goals, just to continue this stint and, happy life.
Happy life, man.
Especially for my kids.
Definitely. 100%. What are your kids doing now? I know with the coronavirus, they're probably...
Well, it hasn't really affected Lyric. He's been homeschooled for the last 2 years through Connexus Academy, so that's been pretty good.
Oh, cool.
I give all the oats and everything to charity because, she does a lot of the work with them and everything.
Wow.
And so that's been pretty new.
Wow. So you and Charity are in recovery together, correct?
Yeah, she introduced me to this place.
Wow. So how is your guys' relationship different before when you were you guys used drugs together?
Mm-hmm.
And how is it different in recovery?
Well, I think it all started probably back when we were living in a homeless shelter. She told me about this place. She told me about Kels. And we just kind of just jumped on board and went through with it.
Yeah.
And how's it different is what we're doing now. How our lives are, how our decision making is, how much work. She doesn't skip a beat. Neither of us do. We don't skip a beat. She doesn't miss work or anything like that. She's always going there, putting 60, 70 hours in there. So I see that, and it feeds into me. And so I try to instill that with my children and even my work ethic as well.
Definitely, man. Definitely. So going through all this, the heartbreaks, the ups, the downs, the toilet seats around the head, would you trade your journey for anything?
No, not at all.
Why not?
Because I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have the experience. I wouldn't have none of that. None of it. I wouldn't have any of that.
I couldn't agree more, man. And just so your pride, man, in yourself, dude, I'm proud of you. Everybody in this facility is, man. And we're lucky to have seen you just bloom.
I'm lucky to be here. I'm lucky to be here.
Well, man, we're lucky to have you, brother.
Just open up. Go seek that help and do it immediately. Because you don't want to waste a second. This is the only vessel we have. This is the only life we've been given. And, it breaks my heart to see other people doing it because I was there. So with that being said, we're out here. We're out here. If you need it, just call us. Call me. I mean,
100%.
I go everywhere. I went to a China place yesterday. China Grill, sorry. I went to China Grill yesterday and somebody knew me there. So we're out there. The help is out there. Just don't stop lying to yourself. Quit bullying yourself. Seek it. If you really need it, it's out there.
100%.
Open arms.
So, man, you've showed me all kinds of fantastic music. I've heard you sing. I'm jealous. So
It's
how?
not just me.
So how what? Tell us about music. How the role it's played in your life. How drugs maybe have affected or changed it.
Sure.
And your plans forward, because I know you're getting the band back together.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I think it was around 2001. So either way, I had first picked up a mic back then. And, I'd always joked around at my house,
Sure.
played in front of the mirror, like, screaming and whatnot. And then I remember being in this band, and we only practiced on Tuesdays for like 3 or 4 hours. And I'd get home every single night, and I'd be raspy. And this is in the beginning stages.
Yeah.
And of course, I was drinking, using drugs and things like that. And then I found this group of guys years later, and we didn't have a name at the time. And they were doing auditions on MySpace, so that tells you how long ago it was. And they gave me a CD. I took the CD home, started studying it, started listening to it and everything. Worked on my vocals, worked on everything that you needed to. And I gave them the CD back like a week earlier versus what they wanted. They said, and I told them, I said, I've got this song and I've got a great name for it. It's going to be called Boisterous. It's about repeating yourself over and over in the same steps. And that led to us being called Full Bore. And we wrote about 15, 16 original songs. And the one song that really stuck out the most, well, there was a few, but the one that I still listen to every day is Vera's, a song about my grandma. She died of cancer in my mom's house, and we helped her through those last 2 weeks of her life. And, during that time, that's when I had first started Suboxone.
Yeah.
I snorted it, crushed up the pills and all that good stuff. And that had a lot to do with it. And then it led to the breakup, of all of us, because one person went to prison for drug use and a lot of other counts.
Yeah.
And felonies. And then the other one, did the same thing, went to prison and stuff like that. And we didn't do anything, and that was it. That was the end of Full Bore.
Wow.
And then about 6 years later, everybody got their head on straight, including myself, the other two guys, and the other bassist. And we had a really fun time doing it, and we had a good reunion show. And we played at the Alarosa, and we played with Boba Flex and a few other locals and other national artists. And we were talking about, like, hey, maybe this is going to be another stint. Maybe we can go at this run again.
Yeah.
We was all for it, and it was a sold out crowd and everything. And my good friend went to go pick up our guitarist and noticed some things that were off about him, and he turned right around and dropped him off. If that's how it went, I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can't really say. But from what he told me, it was just it was hard. It was heartbreaking.
Of course.
And so I had joined other bands prior and afterwards. And like I told you earlier, man, that always stuck in the back of my head, like, nothing's ever going to be as good as Full Bore, because that was my baby. That was our baby.
Yeah.
And, drugs is it's terrible. It's terrible. It's the Carol Baskin's terrible, if that makes sense. Tiger King reference. But, and I pray every day that he's doing well, and that he's got his head on straight, and that he's got a better relationship with his kids. Just why I stopped with music was I was always putting my family on the back burner. I always made time for the band, always made time to write music, but I never made time for my family. I didn't think it like that.
Sure.
I didn't look at it like that.
Sure.
I never thought of it like that. But about 2.5 years ago, I did. And now that's priority number one.
I love it, man. I love it.
It is.
Well, man, just wrapping up, thank you so much, man. Seriously, for
Thank
just
you.
coming here and being here, man. And I'm so lucky and blessed to know you. And I can't wait just to see what the future holds for you and us and all of this journey. And just, you're doing it, man. You're really doing it. All of the people who say you can't get better, you can't recover.
You
once
can.
you try to,
You can. You definitely
You can.
can. It's there. You just have to want it. You have to change your surroundings. You have to change the people you hang around with. You really do.
I couldn't agree more.
Now, I don't do anything. I just work, and I'm home with my kids and my family.
100%.
And I enjoy that. I love that.
100%.
That is gives me that natural high that I used to get on stage. It really does. I mean, we got these little Power Wheels from during the shutdown and everything. And I always wanted one as a kid. I wanted a big wheel. I wanted a Power Wheel, but I never got one. Whatever. So seeing my boys and my kids and my girls happy, we've got a big family. We've got a lot of mouths to feed, but that's okay, because Every single one is here for a reason. They're all blessed. And being able to see them go out there and take them to the park in their Power Wheels, that brings us happiness. That right there is rewarding. And doing it sober and seeing it with clear eyes.
Oh man, clarity.
Yeah, definitely.
That's fantastic, man. But like my man Gunther here, if you guys ever are interested, want this same transformation, you can do it. And
Don't hesitate.
Don't hesitate. Get involved, and you'll have support every step of the way. So once again, thank you again, my man.
Thank you, brother.
It's a pleasure, brother.
Love you.
Anything you need, man.
Seriously. Yeah, of course.
And thank you guys, and until next time.
Sure.